Julia, I think you're going to come away from this and realize that you don't need to do prep in life. You can just do it live. You're going to save so much time.
Doing it live.
Doing it live. Greetings, friends, and welcome, listeners and viewers, to another episode of More or Less. Or this week, is it more Hartz or less Hartz? Because we have Julia Hartz, the CEO and co-founder of Eventbrite, in the house. Julia, welcome.
How do you make the Hartz show up?
Yeah, how does that work?
I'll tell you later when we prep.
Can we talk? I have been in Zoom meetings where I'm saying something and then thumbs up or thumbs down just appears.
It's the ultimate troll.
But it's like a neutral thing.
I can't figure out how to turn it off. It's a real problem.
I can't make a heart, apparently.
This one always works.
Doesn't work.
This is always a good idea.
The Taylor
Wow.
Swift Hartz.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you're never neutrally doing this. It's not like you're trying to make it.
There we go.
I
Oh,
can't.
guys, there's
make
so much Hartz to start this episode. It doesn't work for Sam.
Sam is heartless.
Except for what you will. Well, hi, guys. We missed Britt, but I'm so glad to be here with Sam Lesson, Dave Morin, and Julia Hartz. And in case you don't know, I'm Jessica Lesson. We should just say Britt's busy working. So we scoured the internet. We thought long and hard. Actually, no, we just texted the first person we thought of who'd be great.
I brought my Brit glasses.
You look great.
I don't look nearly as good as I don't know how she does.
What have you done with your hair?
I know. I did not fully commit because I came with my natural hair color.
Oh.
And I apologize.
Nonsense.
I should have gone all in. I should have dyed my hair.
Dave, can you talk about Britt's glasses now that she isn't here? I have known Britt Morin a very long time. Very, very, very long time. And I like her style, but is there like a backstory to the glasses?
They're the Gwyneth Paltrow glasses.
No, I don't know what the backstory is. I think she just, she has several pairs of glasses. I think those just happen to be the ones that are in her office when she's podcasting.
That is such a PC and neutral answer.
Yeah. I don't think it's some calculated move. Yeah.
Okay, I still feel like there's more to the story. So to be continued. Well, friends, we've got a lot to cover this week because March has remained busy in the land of technology. We've got big headlines around all our favorite topics of the pod: TikTok, OpenAI, venture capital, even some good old X news this week. So we can spin through that, but we want to spend a lot of time putting our friend Julia in the hot seat here from
Why
her
not?
perch running Eventbrite and kind of as looking into her crystal ball of all things events, live events, all of that fun stuff too. But let's start where we always start or always end. Sam, would you like to share the TikTok news with the crowd?
Listen, as you guys know, I'm never wrong. but I have to say that for the first time ever, 2 weeks ago, I was doing my Zero Dark 30 number of days since TikTok has been banned, continuous where the government continued said, as I've said all along, that the United States, if they can't get it up to kick TikTok out, then candidly, we deserve to lose because it's such an obvious national security threat. But I'm looking at the top of Techmeme and there's a big old fat article that the U.S. House actually passed a bipartisan TikTok bill to force the sale/ban it. We'll see what happens in the Senate. Biden says he's going to do it. I have to say, I'm proud of the country. I mean, I think
so proud.
We'll see what happens. And candidly, the black swanny negative thing of this, sometimes the best things are always the worst things. The worst things are the best things. It's kind of like when you're the dog that catches the rat or the cat that catches the mouse, whatever the analogy is this is probably going to have some pretty wild and potentially bad knock-on effects globally.
All of those.
Just slight ones, because I think a lot of countries say, wait a minute, all the social media is American. How do we feel about if America doesn't like TikTok in America? How do we feel about this? Now, I think there's a huge difference between an obviously for-profit global company and a company with absolutely undeniable, deep, clear political ties directly into the Chinese Communist Party. So I don't think it's apples to apples. But I do think, A, go America. Let's get this done. Let's fix a national security problem. And then B, my bet is that the next set of long conversations on more or less is going to be how this ends up having global impact in all sorts of other places, as we talk about something Dave and I have talked about for years, which is kind of the collapse of the global internet into kind of regional factionalization.
So we should just also make sure everyone knows the status. So the House of Representatives has passed a bill that would effectively ban TikTok in the US.
And this is, I believe, the first bill the House has passed ever.
At least in recent memory. Yeah.
I didn't even know they knew how to do that.
It will go to that second congressional governmental body known as the Senate, where I was talking to a source who's directly involved in working on this. They said all bills go to die. But I don't know, every day our team is hearing something different about the Senate sort of, the different prognosticating on what Schumer will do. And the sense is he'll probably bring it to a vote if he thinks he has the votes. But there are still many steps, including the Senate passing a bill and then the House and Senate doing what they do to iron out said differences in the bill. And then the court, inevitable court challenge of that, because you have to believe that will happen. That's what happened the first time. So we're still several steps, but I think we're way further than maybe we even thought a week ago. So
just a couple notes on this, because I know you guys have already talked about it. So there's not much else I can add except for the fact that no one in Congress is going to get any branding credit for this, because the bill itself is Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, which the acronym is PAFACAA.
That's great. That's a great T-shirt. I want a PAFACAA T-shirt.
Oh absolutely. I want a PAFACAA hat.
I and my best friend Claude, we worked on a joke around this one, which is
wait, is Claude the AI Claude?
Okay, ready? Why did Dave support the PAFACAA?
Why, Julia?
Why? Do you want to know why?
Yeah,
because
I do want to know why.
They don't want any foreign adversaries spying on their data. I'm not going to win any comedy awards, and these guys aren't going to win any branding awards. We need to rebrand this bill before it gets all the way to the top.
But Julia, that's fascinating. That tells me this thing was rushed through. Because if you can't even get, a pro-American acronym on top of your bill, that's like the definition of the 11th hour.
What about the hat? Sam, I know what to get you now. You're going to get a PAFACAA hat.
He's ordering it now. Look at him. He's custom inking as we speak.
You don't know this, Julia, but I actually have one of my favorite T-shirts is I had made GDPR T-shirts. They just said GDPR on them. The PAFACAA seems like even better. This actually might be the next great DTC brand, PAFACAA.
They're furry, they're cute,
Sam, it's definitely like your influencer brand. You can do drops every month, new designs.
Absolutely. What did AOC vote on this thing?
So I just got to give a shout out to Paris Martineau, who has started a side business of hats from ridiculous things that tech people say in front of Congress. So she has a hat collection which says, "Sir, we sell ads," which you may remember from Mark's testimony. So you guys could just joint venture this puppy.
Guys, I just looked this up. I'm so happy to see this. You know what anti-American terrible person voted no on this? Who do you think?
Oh, no. Sam, it's like go.
AOC.
Are you surprised?
Really? No, AOC, but
really?
Yeah, because AOC is captured by the woke, whatever, and the children love TikTok.
Captured by, isn't she?
She is. She is. But
that's confusing to me.
No, it's totally on brand. Her entire follower base is on TikTok and they love TikTok. So she's very pro America, not national security.
Well, so I think this is actually one of the hardest questions in this whole thing, which is that, one can love TikTok as a product. I think this is actually the hardest thing in the whole thing, which is that TikTok's this great product. It's a really well done product. It's had immense cultural impact. But you have this other problem, which is that it's an enormous national security risk.
Yes.
And so I think that's actually the hardest thing about explaining this to anyone. Like, if this happens, I think most people in the country are going to have no idea why it happened. And it will kind of cause a lot of havoc, which is unclear politically what effect that will have, at least inside the United States.
We've got to remember, the other thing, and the team's done some awesome reporting around this, but one of the things that's interesting now is actually a lot of the investors in ByteDance and TikTok are actually staying pretty silent on the lobbying front, which is a huge shift from 2 years ago. They have so much money at stake here, but they're basically like, look, we don't want to come out as anti-American. We also have bigger problems and issues we need to push Congress on that affect our business and portfolio. So I think you'll see, I'm sure Sequoia will trot itself down to the hill or something like that. But again, they're like, we got out of your crosshairs by splitting up. We don't need to come back. And I think this is happening now because we have politicians on both sides that are trying to win an election in several months and want optics around this issue. But we'll see. So it's easy to say, but nothing will happen. At the same time, more is actually happening. And so
is that really why this is happening? It seems so risky politically.
Well, it does. I'm just shocked. I am shocked. To the AOC voting against, right? The story that I have been told over and over and over and over by smart people who have said, yes, TikTok obviously is a national security threat, obviously needs to be banned. There's no way that the Democrats will do anything before the election because they want every last scrape and vote they can get out of the children. And the children like TikTok. And so it's just not worth it because they're so worried about Trump winning the election. The fact that Biden is clearly just being look, this is clearly a national security threat and that's okay. Or maybe the calculus is more political, which is they need a national security win and that's worth more than the children's vote.
Well, but remember, Trump changed his tune. So
I love
it. Trump is now saying he's against a ban because it will help Meta, who he likes less.
Which cost me a few dollars in the stock market.
Surprise.
But also, there's a plot intrigue. We don't have to go down, but one of Jeffrey Yass, who's one of ByteDance's most powerful investors, is very close to Trump and is lobbying him on all sorts of issues. And as that's come to light more, it seems like increasingly that was behind what happened in the past. So anyway, certainly more to follow here. I don't know. Any last predictions on this? I think the Senate's going to pick it up, which I think it's happening a few days ago.
I think it's happening.
And have you guys decided that a divestiture is off the table, or
China won't allow it? So I think it's a great point, Julian. Completely missing. And God love Bobby Kotick, who thinks he's buying TikTok. Bobby, call me back. I'm trying to tell you all the reasons you're not buying TikTok.
That's why he's not going to call you back.
No, I know. But it is actually, and I had a call with my Asia bureau chief this morning on it. It is against current Chinese law. It's not even a question of, will the government enact something new, but just sort of, it would violate their algorithm.
They cannot sell it.
They won't let them. It will be in violation of their rules against exporting algorithms.
Yeah, but that's a convenient cover story. But that's
totally.
Also the thing I saw, I think, which is also true, is it makes sense to me, is them being look, they don't give a rat's ass about
I think that's true
making
too.
money. It just doesn't matter to them at all, right? And so they're we're happy to light a few $200 billion on fire, right? We care about is obviously the global reach. And so I tweeted about this. I think it's again, it's obviously a little bit jumping around and making kind of trying to score points, but there is this narrative of that's kind of tipping their hand. The reason they care about TikTok is not because it's a natural for-profit business, where obviously divestiture is the reason. And if you were a ByteDance shareholder, you'd be lobbying the crap out of the Chinese government to change that law because you have hundreds of billions of dollars at stake. But the reality is the Chinese don't operate this as a natural for-profit company with a profit motive that we can all understand and get behind. It's, it has ulterior potential motives.
Ooh, this gets so into our next topic. But one thing, Sam, because I agree that we shouldn't trust that there's any separation between the Chinese government and what they could do to ByteDance or TikTok. I think things people in the US miss, though, is the Chinese government actually has a lot of beef with ByteDance and TikTok and has been making their life a lot harder. And when I started covering China internet a while ago, these big tech companies were seen by Xi and others as these national champions that would were big global business success stories for China. And Didi was among them, and just sort of many others. Xiaomi was showing huge promise in phones. But then what happened is the government just completely changed their kind of technology strategy to like semiconductors, essentially. And they went from talking about these big companies, ByteDance among them, as like potential national champions, to instead things that were, they were worried were wasting time. And there's a term in Chinese I don't recall, but it's essentially something that's silly and time wasting. And they refer to ByteDance as that. And so the government's been cracking down. They've been
in China, but they're happy to export their cigarettes to us.
Again, I'm not trying to argue, and I'll finish this point, Dave, and turn to you. I'm not trying to argue that therefore they're not nefarious with the app, but I am just saying I think largely the Chinese government, what is missed is like ByteDance isn't some shining national champion they're trying to win. They hope win at all costs. They actually see it as sucking time and talent away from more urgent national priorities. And that's just been a big shift in Chinese internet investing.
100%. But like, it's like Opium Wars 6.0, right? Which is like, they're like, yeah, no opium at home, but America.
Send it all.
Yes. Dave, okay, wrap us up on TikTok with your thoughts.
I think that to me, like what I would like to believe is another factor at play here is that I think that parents nationwide are extremely worried about children and screens and phones. And I'm not going a day right now without a parent bringing this up around me. People are panicked. They're starting to view the phone as something akin to, alcohol or drugs that like they need to protect their kids from at all costs. And so part of me wants to believe that that's part of what's playing out here. And the fact that China has played this parent role to their entire population, specifically on TikTok. If I remember correctly, they've actually banned TikTok usage longer than a certain number of minutes per day. They've also banned the algorithm. They've like changed the algorithms that only pumps, science and engineering and STEM related content to their kids. And yet they're allowing the opposite to happen in the United States. Like it's just a bunch of bullshit. And I think that protecting our kids, is becoming it's both a national security issue, but also like protecting the future generations of our country. And it goes far beyond just TikTok. But there's a bigger conversation that I'd like to think is playing out here related to that maybe isn't entirely politically motivated. It might be what's causing bipartisan support here. I don't know.
But it's also easy to blame the Chinese for that. And they didn't actually do that. We did. I mean, I think it's conflating two big issues. National security, which by the way, like I'll kind of talk about the Gen Zer who lives in my house, doesn't think about that every day at all, isn't being taught that in school, doesn't really understand, thinks it's a little bit of a hysterical propaganda move to say that it's a national security threat. Which
how does she feel about Taiwan?
Frightening.
That's the question.
They're not like they're, and I'm speaking, obviously we live in California, so, take it for what it's worth, but that's not a subject that's being talked about every day in school. Mm-hmm. I know that goes down a rabbit hole. So I'm going to put a fine point in that for just a second. The second thing is that she said, well, go somewhere else. They're not, at least in terms of her and her social circles, they're very fickle. They're like, oh, okay. TikTok's
where are they going to go? Are they going to go to the Snap?
They're going to go where Trump doesn't want them to go. They're going to get Sam another puffy vest. The stock will go up. It'll be great. It's all they'll just go to Instagram. They'll just spend more time on Instagram. It's not like it's really not going to change their lives. They more so don't quite understand why we're all bent out of shape about this, and it's not going to change the underlying issue that you're talking about, Dave, which is the loneliness epidemic and what we've done to perpetuate that.
Yeah, to be clear, I don't want to conflate the two issues. And I guess I'm trying to pull them apart into two separate issues. And I think that TikTok and social media is just one aspect of a larger thing, which is that, you can just look at data. And, the year 2010, this problem really started to accelerate. And that's directly related to smartphones. It's not a specific, I think it's very difficult to call out any given app or anything like that. It's more like, what have we done by putting these powerful computers in everybody's pockets, particularly in kids' pockets?
And for what it's worth, I think that's like, for at least from my politics and positioning, a much more challenging issue. Like the reason the TikTok thing is so easy in my mind is the national security thing is just straight up the middle.
Yeah.
Right? It's like an easy conversation to have. Like even people are like, oh, like it's a question of them stealing data. I'm like, that data is not worth anything. Like I'm not worried about that. It's literally just this very narrow but very deep thing, which is like you can obviously use a platform like that if you're connected to a government to absolutely influence beliefs. And we just saw
steal hearts and minds, not data.
That's easy. The second you get into like, smartphones, digital media, good or bad, that one, I'll say personally, is like, it is certainly, there's interesting things on. Dave, I think your point culturally is 100% right. I did a Peloton class this morning, Bex Gentry, all so negative on the internet. Like, and where the Bex really leads where the country goes in terms of the culture. So
Bex is ranting against the internet while you're on the Peloton tread.
Yeah,
yes.
She's delivering this over the internet.
Wow.
Yes, she's ranting against the internet. I will say that at one point years ago, she was ranting about how the moon landing was faked, and that really threw me off my running game because, like, I really like Bex Gentry.
She's been watching too much TikTok, Sam.
She should stay in her lane. Get it? So the runner should stay in her lane. But
Can I ask Julie a question as having older children? So I think Dave, Sam, and I feel like we're spread out across the spectrum, but I feel like our kind of kids and their age in school, we're entering the age when these issues become really, really serious. So it seems it's sort of like we're entering these debates and discussions, but are they at the same time getting more serious? Like, do you feel like as an epidemic, this is kind of growing? And
well, I think there's two defining inflection points that when we all look back, we'll understand had an outsized impact on the humans that we have been raising. The first is what Dave was talking about, the advent of the smartphone. And, if I look back at pictures of Emma, who's our oldest, we had just gotten our smartphone. So it was like, she is the smartphone generation. And then COVID and what age and what stage of life they were at when COVID hit is going to be these distinct chapters. I think we haven't even begun looking at the impact and the trauma, just even as adults. So, But kids too, it really mattered what stage of life they were at and what kind of impact it had. And so I think that those two are converging into a massive mental health epidemic. And, I think it's also part of us having to bridge back and understand what parts of being connected all the time and living life like a micro influencer, which is what she's going to kill me if she heard this. So what, like, maybe her type of people do, what that's going to mean for them later in life. What is it so I think there's two really interesting things. One is this idea that you're projecting yourself all the time. And it's actually not what we used to do when social media first came out, where it was like perfect, Instagram life. It's more so they are constantly on a conversation on Snap. Constantly. I friended some of her friends as a joke. I got so many snaps of like them just snapping. It was like, be real. I was like, whoa, I don't need to see you right now. Like of these pictures of just their faces. And I was like, that's really sweet / kind of creepy because I sent back a picture and then it kept going. And I was like, wait, we're good. The second thing, so they're like doing get ready with me videos, but talking about their lives just really openly and kind of raw. And the second thing is, they are aware of where everybody is at all times. And where we think maybe that's a nightmare, they actually think it's super awesome and cool and convenient. Not everybody, obviously, but they just have a different perspective on what it means to be living their lives as these sort of micro influencers, but also trying to figure out what the heck this means for the next generation. Actually, there's one more, which is that leveling up, the gaming of the way that they've been raised, whether they are a gamer. I have a gamer, so I understand, whether they want to maintain their streaks on Snap, on Duolingo. Yes. Like Duolingo,
that one seems like I can bet behind.
What are they learning?
They're learning Spanish. I mean, they can learn a lot more now, but all of a sudden.
So they did really not getting the LLM message. It's like the one skill that's now completely irrelevant.
But it's that leveling up that then lands them into the next level, the next level, the next unlock, then lands them into the job market, and they don't know they're like, where's my unlock? Where's my promo?
I mean, that's great, Julia. I think you just redefined how we should be recruiting children. We'll give them like 6 stars for showing up, and they can trade it for a pickaxe.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not what the job market is, not what professional experience is like. It's a lot more up and down, but it.
Yeah, but maybe we need to take like quarterly performance reviews and turn them into a continuous like stream for employees.
Guys, I think that's what Zoom is doing, by the way.
And then, if you don't show up, if you take too long in the bathroom, you lose some life.
No, Bloomberg does that. You have to badge in and out of the bathroom. Don't work at Bloomberg, work at the information. It's true. The newsroom. You have to badge in and out of your desk, including like bathroom breaks. So
it's amazing.
It is amazing.
Good for them.
That's fascinating, Julia. And I think one of our most shared, discussed pieces in the past few months of the information was a story about Snap's subscription tier. And it was a great piece in our weekend section that is kind of told through the experiences of young people using the product. And among the things is a leaderboard where you can kind of see who your most messaged people are. And we had one anecdote where someone realized her boyfriend was cheating on her because she was no longer the most messaged. But that was fascinating to me. Dave, your thoughts?
Well, I noticed that The Atlantic actually put out a really pretty powerful long read this morning called The Terrible Costs of a Phone-Based Childhood.
Oh,
and
I'm already sad to read it. It's like heartbreaking.
It's and I liked the subtitle. It said, for a little over a decade, we've been raising children in an environment that is hostile to human development. We need to change this. And there's one chart here, which I'm going to put it up on the screen, which just like, as somebody who just had a daughter, this like terrifies me. And I think that there's all these charts you can look at, which are very hard to look at any other way than like, that was the smartphone. And like I said earlier, there's no one app. Like, I'm not pointing fingers at, anybody really here, other than that, like, we put these things in people's pockets and then kids got them. And like, I'm staring down the pipeline at this. And, Julia, you're sort of talking about this. And what is it about what this does to girls in particular that I think is like this really interesting question? And then if you scroll down in this article, there's a secondary thing, which is there's another one on disability, but this is really fascinating, that people are struggling to find meaning since the smartphone. Like, this is a different way of thinking about this problem, right? It's one thing to get into mental health and, why are girls, ending up in the emergency room for self-harm more frequently since the smartphone. But the fact that people are, not just girls, but also boys, are struggling to find meaning in life since the smartphone is like a fascinating trend line.
So 2 reactions, one local, one more global. Local. It's interesting that Apple isn't getting more blowback for this, right? Like, you think about who are the cigarette dealers of the age, et cetera. If you really buy this narrative, how is Apple this like shining loved company when like they're the platform that does it?
I mean, just to reference Dave's chart, it started at 2008.
Yeah.
Well, here's my second question. This is the one that I think maybe absolves Apple a little bit. It says, here's the thing. You can talk about the smartphone, or you can just talk about internet penetration. And I think the other question is just overlay the internet. So it's such an acceleration. It's hard. Is it really the smartphone, or is it just that like that's where the internet went ubiquitous and tipped? And to me, the interesting thing about that one is like, look, you're like, of course people are. I mean, this is like so obvious why the internet would have people have trouble finding meaning, right? Like, I'll go back to the thing I always say. Pre-internet, you're the best basketball player in your community. There's meaning in that. You're known as that. That's your purpose. That's your place. You're the man of basketball, right? Or whatever the thing is in your community. Post-internet, you look on, you're like, oh my God, I'm not that good at basketball, right? I can see everything. I realize I'm not that good. There's nothing you're good at all of a sudden, because the communities went from being locally bound and physically bound to infinite and digital. And in that world, what you're seeing, I think so much is explained by this, because I think what you see is, one, people can't find meaning because they've lost that easy access, right? Where they're the best in their local loop. And then 2, the natural response, which is exactly what we're seeing, is people go for weirder and weirder, nicher and nicher shit in an effort to reestablish a community in which phase they can have meaningful purpose in place. So it's like very obvious, like what's happening. It's like you get like Reddit is a good example. It's like Reddit is obvious. Like we can argue about it's good or bad, but like it's very clear what the dynamic is, which is you go a little bit out. You're like, oh, cool. I found this like local island where like there's only 1,000 people and everyone knows who I am. And I'm like the best at basketball in that neighborhood. And like, oh shit, there are too many people here and I'm actually not anymore. So I'm going to go even weirder. And so you basically see this like massive fracturing of society. And it all comes back to this search for meaning and purpose and place in a frictionless environment. Like it's just not that complicated.
But Sam,
right?
Wouldn't you say that if that thesis, if I'm hearing your thesis right, that the internet helps us find meaning in even more niche community, then the chart wouldn't look the way that it does. It would look like people are finding meaning more. But it's actually
maybe it depends. But think about it this way. I kind of feel like, in a last silly metaphor, and we can move on maybe from this or not, is like it's kind of like you're wandering around the earth looking for more and more niche shit where you can have purpose in place. Right. So like it's not like you ever settle down, right? You have to keep going.
That's what I was going to say. It's like you always have more option value.
Well, you're basically like a vagabond of meaning. Like it used to be like you're locked into your small town, and it kind of sucks because there isn't that much diversity, and everyone goes to the mall and everyone wears Gap, and it's kind of boring. But like you are the best at basketball, and like you're the basketball dude. And now it's like you've got your little knapsack on your back, and you're wandering the earth looking for weirder and weirder extremes where you can find a home. And like I think that's just kind of culturally where we're at.
So where does this end? There's a lot. Our friends, Sarah and Aaron Foster, have a great podcast. They had a great expert on child smartphone addiction. I listened to the whole pod. It was fascinating. The upshot was basically restrictions on screen time. Right. But like...
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing from people, that it's like going full authoritarian on screen time is the only solution.
So I got a text this morning, again, from my daughter asking me for her passcode to screen time because she wanted to set up her own app limits today. So it's so timely. And, I was like, I don't even remember it because you're 16. So I haven't like dealt with those in a long time.
Wait, she's asking to set her own limits?
Yeah, that's great.
That's awesome.
I think that's what happens. So yeah, a couple things is like comparison is the thief of joy. And I don't mean to boil this down to something so simple, but I do think the fact that we are living our lives, to Sam's point, looking at every basketball player out there and who we could be and who we're better than or who we want to be like. And it's all in the name of like inspiration and aspiration. I think you go overboard on that and you've got this really big kind of sucking thing that's happening to people's joy. The second thing is, in order for us to help our kids, we have to reparent ourselves on smartphones. So evoking Dr. Becky, who
100%.
I know is a great friend of the Morans, I feel like we have to figure it out, and then we can raise our kids to figure it out. But I don't think we have figured it out because it happened to us. I mean, it's not something that, even though we're grown-ups, we've been adapting along the way.
Yeah.
So...
Well, this is actually also a really great transition point, Jess, because,
Dave, run, take the ball.
Having Julia on the pod, I think that one of the things, a theme we've talked about a lot on the pod over the last few months, Julia, is the sort of resurgence of the live experience, whether it's, the sheer kind of unbelievable momentum of Taylor Swift's Eras tour to what's going on with sports. The Super Bowl is the most watched live event since the moon landing. We just kind of keep hearing about this, that people are crying out for the live experience again. And so, I think we were kind of excited to have you on the pod to talk about what else is going on out there. We've been talking about the highest level kind of things that are easy to talk about, but having you here in the seat, we might be able to learn some things about what you're seeing out there. In my time on the Eventbrite board, I was always loved the board meetings because I'd learn about things like Tough Mudder and things that were big trends in the country around live experience that might tell us something about where things are headed. So I know that's kind of a broad start, but it'd be kind of cool to talk to you about this stuff.
I started to think I was just asked to be on the pod in Britt's place to run referee between you and Steph. I'm like here for. So I'm just honored to like do that. But
you should do that too.
but it's big shoes to fill because Britt's one of my idols. So yes, I've been working in this space since 2006. Dave was on the board from 2012 to 2018, which is like our most transformative years. And really, Dave, we built Eventbrite to democratize event ticketing, and you brought the consumer to the table. And I'd say it's taken me a while, but I'm finally breaking through on that front. So I think what we're seeing today is, like, if you imagine that there's a pyramid and that Live Nation, Ticketmaster, AEG, Access, Taylor Swift effectively is the top of the pyramid and it's vertically integrated, right? And then you have the bottom of the pyramid that's RSVP, like Partyful, or ways that we like just get together with friends. Eventbrite's the fatty middle of that pyramid. We
Love
serve
the fatty middle.
It's fatty. I'm going to say it. We are fat. 5 million events last year, over 300 million ticket buyers, and over 1 million event creators. So when we break down the difference between today and 2019, before that massive Black Swan event that nobody could ever imagine, and I think about that moment in time when the CDC said that no more than 10 people could gather, which is an amazing moment. I'll never forget exactly where I was when that happened. I think about the waves of recovery that we've seen, and these, like, it's easy to forget that we had all these false, restarts on life, and then it usually got, clobbered back down, and it was just this crazy sort of roller coaster. What we're seeing now, as we've normalized for over a year, is that, Sam, you couldn't have said it better or teed this up. Niche is the new mass. So people are absolutely wanting to be in more highly curated experiences that map to those groups that they found on Reddit. And I'm not surprised that Reddit's going out at the valuation they're going out at, because I see it play out in real life in a way that's absolutely skyrocketing.
Are these Julia, that's fascinating. Like, tell us more, like, who organizes these events? Is it individual?
They're community organizers. We call them event creators. Everybody's got to be a creator these days, but they are the people that rally others around a common cause or passion. They're the ones who find it fulfilling and gratifying to host. I'm one in my life. I love hosting great experiences, but it's something that people do mostly because they're passionate about it, because it's not the best way to make money. But it's the best way to influence, is getting people together in real life.
So Julia, can I ask you a question? I mean, like, I think all of us on the pod know, or friends at various times with Scott Heiferman and Meetup. Mm-hmm. Like, how much were they just like kind of right, but just ahead of their time on some of this stuff? Or like, talk to me about like kind of how you see, like, because what you're describing a little bit to me is like something they were trying to do 15, 20 years ago. And kind of got to work, but not really.
Yeah, I think they were ahead of their time. I mean, I think they stuck with it, they probably could have become more of the Etsy of gathering. But I think what they lacked was a commercial angle. I mean, it was not super activating in terms of how people come and make money.
Yeah.
Right. So I think one of the biggest misnomers about Eventbrite is that we are backyard barbecues, or we are these, free library events. The vast majority of the events on Eventbrite are money-making.
Yeah, these are businesses.
Events.
Yeah.
The information uses it for all of our ticketed events.
Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate that.
Welcome, including one I will plug shortly.
Oh, yes. Yes. Put the link up. You brought up a great point, Dave. The Atlantic is showing, the really serious impacts. We also know that Gen Z is saying over 75% of them are saying they're suffering from loneliness. So meeting online is not getting it done. Playing Fortnite with your friends, not getting it done. Getting together, this is the latest trend that I love so much. Getting together for silent book club.
Oh,
wait, what's silent book club? Does that mean you all get together to read with each other?
Yes.
I mean, that's awesome.
Yes. It's brilliant.
Sam and I silent book club frequently.
Did you just tell us all that you're getting paid for people to come and sit quietly in a room next to each other?
Yes.
It's like studying in the library in college. There's no reason to...
it's like a rediscovery of intimacy.
The event is nothing. Pay me.
It's like the meditation apps. I'm going to play silence for you.
Yes. People want to be doing things with other people. This probably does not blow your mind. but no one wants to meet on an app anymore. No one wants to meet their future partner on an app. They want to go be not so much at a bar hanging out meeting, or I met Kevin at a wedding. They want to be doing something they love and finding love at the same time. So there's a lot of...
It's interesting you bring that up, because I was noticing there was a big New York Times article this week about the dating apps have basically plateaued. It's effectively, the way I read it, that it's now more expensive to use a dating app to find someone than it is to find somebody in a real life for the first time. And I was actually wondering that, are you seeing kind of that kind of, I guess you're saying that you are, but.
Yeah. So we're seeing these creators who have been in the past matchmakers or speed dating organizers, they're actually changing their format completely. They're doing, I don't know, Sam, what do you like to do with your free time?
Ice baths.
Okay, they're doing ice baths.
Sam, you can charge people to sit in an ice bath next to you.
And find love. You got to have that and find love part.
Sam is so lucky. I like a good ice bath, I got to say. But, or they're playing tennis, right? I mean, or they're...
Yeah, they're doing things that they love. It could be silly, it could be serious, it could be, but it's a part of them. And so it's marrying the niche with love, right? And it makes a ton of sense. It's sort of like we go back to toddler parallel play, where we're all doing something together, and you're not there to necessarily meet someone, but you might.
Well, it's also like that makes sense because everyone's socially regressed so far that all they can do is toddler partner play. Have you guys seen the dating app Soon?
No.
And Sam, why have you?
I'm an investor. People pitch me shit. They're doing it really. I mean, I think it's what, to your point, Julia. It's like they're it's some young women in San Francisco, and they've had some success doing some basically an app with a hybrid on physical component, which I think is to your point.
So what is it? Is it an app where they tell you where to go to meet people?
No, it's like an app, and it's like a somewhat traditional dating app, but not really, with a different algorithm attached to it. But then it basically drives into live events, and like everything is about the live events.
I guess that's what I mean. It sort of tells you, go here. There's probably people at this event.
I mean, they're a little more intentional. At least I think it's very early. I think they're still evolving it, but I think they're a little more intentional about how they set the events up. But yeah, directionally. It is interesting. We were talking to my cousin.
Sounds like a feature Eventbrite should have, Julia.
I know.
Tell me which events to go to.
Have them call me.
I get recommended events all the time.
I mean, Eventbrite could also just do like a thing where if this is what's happening, where you just like mark your status at the event, and then you just show up and you get like a little dot you put on your forehead.
Totally.
Right.
This is Julia's look. Like, guys, we've thought of all of this. Thank you.
We have, actually.
You're going to date at your silent booking anyway. You might as well put a dot on your face that says available.
What about, Sam, did we ever go to a red light, green light party in college? This is coming back to me, where you wore a wristband I
mean, maybe you did. I don't know.
I think we did.
I think those parties get a little bit weirder the older you get.
No, this was very, very G-rated.
All I remember was the Mather Lather.
Yeah, that was one too.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Where are you going?
But I have a couple more questions for Julia on this, actually. It was fascinating. It's interesting, given the sort of parallels to the digital communities, that none of those platforms have been remotely successful in events. And I don't know, do you think that trend will continue, or do they even care anymore? But it just seems like such a great opportunity, and they've tried, but they've just been miserable.
By that, do you mean Fortnite and Minecraft and things like that?
No, I'm thinking more Facebook and Reddit. Like Facebook, they have these bare bones kinds of imitation things, right? But like,
yeah, I mean, that's how I know Dave, is that we partnered with Facebook from 2008, 2009. So we've been partners with them throughout all this time. And so it's waxed and waned for sure. I mean, I think there was a time where Mark really wanted just all real life things to be represented in the feed, that the feed should be all about real life. And, that was an era where they invested a lot in bringing live experiences to the platform. We integrated natively, so you could actually buy your ticket without leaving Facebook. The investments it comes and goes, right? With any big company. I think it's hard to make a lot of money in ticketing. I think that, in order for it to work for everybody, you have to be Switzerland. We don't own all of the distribution. We actually push a lot of events out to where people are, because you don't go to a grocery store looking for a live event. You find it through your social feed. You find it through, influencers you follow. You find it through where your friends are and you aren't. the discovery of events is hard because it's not a skew. It's an ephemeral thing that happens. You don't go to it alone. So I buy shoes on Instagram post 10 p.m., but I'm not going to go to an event alone, that often post 10 p.m. You have to coordinate with friends. It has to work in your calendar. And then the quality of the event really matters. Like if you get something, if you order something.
Except for silent book reading, where it clearly doesn't matter at all.
I don't know. I might go read some books. No, I'd rather read alone, but that's
I think these trends, these micro trends are so fascinating because everything old is new again, right? So, and I also think that it's indicative of how people want to be spending their time. I would say the final thing we're seeing sort of across every category of event is just really highly curated events. So I was talking to someone last night about one of the best techno rave clubs in Brooklyn right now is Basement, and they do a vibe check.
Of course, we know that place well.
You love it?
Are you joking?
Do you ever pass the vibe check, Sam?
I don't know any of the words you just said.
They have a bouncer. Remember bouncers when we used to go to clubs and they would let in the people who looked like they were going to spend a lot of money and the pretty people?
Dave and Sam invested in a bouncer company.
Bannerman. Uber for bouncers.
It was a great company.
This is like next level bouncer where they actually interview you at the door, no matter who you are, how many times you come to go see. And they are curating for the actual artist that night. They're curating the vibe. And they take it very seriously. And it's not personal, but you actually will get your ticket refunded at the door if you don't pass the vibe check.
Wild.
And I think that's hyperbolic of what we're seeing in events, but people really care about the energy at the event.
I can't wait for this to become like a highly politicized issue. It's like, who are you not letting in for vibe check reasons? Like, this is going to be a disaster at some point.
You totally want to do that at Jesse's next event.
It's like, and you go back and you're like, no, my vibe's different.
It's like, look, Julie, I hate to break it to you, but I feel like they were doing some vibe checking in the South a long time ago. People didn't like that very much.
Okay. Okay, Sam. Okay. Last question for Julia. So there are many people on this pod who like this new monstrosity on their face that is a very heavy device called the Apple Vision Pro. I actually think it's very cool too. Mm-hmm. I hate to just take tech buzzy thing and ask you what you think about it, but I'm going to do that because it seems relevant to loneliness, live connected experience.
Does it?
Well, it also relates to the pandemic, Jess, which is I was actually wondering this.
Are you making fun of me, Sam?
I can't wait for the Apple Vision Pro read a book in silent app.
Yeah. No, you're taking it too literally. I'm just wondering how VR as a platform, is it going to exacerbate the loneliness issues we talked about? Do you think that how are you thinking about it today, knowing it's very early?
Well, we've thought about it a lot because obviously it's a technology trend that can, either be a tailwind or a headwind to our business. And we feel that, along the way, Eventbrite's been around for quite a long time. We've ridden these different waves of momentum, whether it was mobile or data or social, that have actually enabled people to come together in better ways. The only thing that was a massive headwind was COVID. I mean, a global pandemic. So I think about VR and AR as there is value in it, in the way that people think about how they can experience different events, how they can be in different experiences together. I think today I'm mostly interested in how people are enabling experiences through AR and what they're doing with that type of immersive experience as the core principle of that shared experience. I have to admit, I don't have it. I ordered it and then it was going to take too long. And Kevin said I should just cancel and go down to the store and get it. And I haven't gotten it, which says a lot about how not motivated I am to get it. And so I know, Dave, you're looking at me like...
Dave's got the how dare you.
No, I actually had a different question, which was related to your pandemic comments, which is, it stands to reason that you ended up with a lot of virtual events during the pandemic. Yeah. And has that maintained or is that reducing? I sort of am curious how that intersects with this potential AR future.
So from early March, in 14 days, 14 years of building a company was gone. I just want to state that very clearly. We all of our Tableau dashboards broke. We were generating negative revenue, so more refunds than revenue. About 2 weeks later, virtual events started to take off. We were already acting to save the company, but virtual events was something that we couldn't bet on.
Yeah.
It started to take off about 2 weeks later. So it was really quick. And what we saw were people who had built-in communities and a great event format. So take Daybreaker, for example. They do these early morning dance parties. They went virtual, and they went from, dance parties of 1,000 people to this Sunday morning service that was 100,000 people around the world at the same time.
That's amazing.
And that happened almost immediately. And, they invested in production quality and whatnot. But I mean, that was incredible. Now they have this platform, this global audience that they wouldn't have had. And so there's definitely people who just totally unlock the next level of gathering if they had a great concept and they already had a built-in community. What we saw is virtual events went up to like 90% of the events on the platform. We integrated with Zoom. We talked about buying some virtual event startups.
Good move for skipping that.
We talked about, should we be a streaming company? Really glad I didn't decide to do that. And then it just totally collapsed in 2021. It was like we saw the bulk majority of event. It was down to less than 10%.
Wow. And that's stayed the same?
Yeah.
Is it growing or is it declining?
It's pretty steady.
Stable.
Like it's just flat. Yeah. So it's not growing, but
That's good news to me.
To
our prior conversation. That means that people are getting out there and connecting with each other rather than through screens. And that's good news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So on that note, I am quite excited because one of our big events at The Information is coming to LA on April 2nd. And it's relevant to all these themes. It's our Creator Economy Summit. So this is convening creators, investors, entrepreneurs, big companies, athletes, celebrities on kind of the future of the creator economy. I know Sam and Slow Ventures are big investors in the area, and Sam has a lot of theses about how it will evolve that he's talked about. And Diplo is coming. So if you are interested in this topic, I encourage everyone to go to theinformation.com/events, where you will be led to an Eventbrite ticketing experience. And we would love to see many of you there. So it should be a great event. Usually I tell Sam who's coming to our conferences, and I'm not sure if he's paying attention, but when I told him Diplo, he goes, "Oh, I'm glad I'm going." Really?
Sam's an electronic music buff.
I like Diplo.
Is that one of your niche interests that we didn't know about?
I would pay a consultant to tell me what my niche interests are. That might be a new business.
I'll bullet point it right after.
Man.
That would be a thing. Like, I would love someone to be like, your niche is like,
you can just back out why you see this Instagram ad, and that will tell you probably, or why you.
Yeah, they should rebrand that as what is my niche interests for people who don't know.
To be clear.
And then dots on your forehead.
I do want that feature of Instagram that they just tell me what I am rather than keeping it hidden from me.
This is what friends are for. Why do you need Instagram? We can just tell you.
I have a question for the group if you'll indulge me just for 60 seconds. Okay, because I thought about this because it's such a unique setup here. I wanted to ask you each one quick question about your partner. And Dave, we'll have to get Britt's answer because she's otherwise disposed. Okay, ready?
We're ready.
Yeah, go for
Sam,
it.
you get to go first. If your partner was a kitchen appliance, which one would they be and why?
Blender.
And what does that say about their personality or your relationship dynamic?
I just think there's a lot of power. Just whip stuff up.
All right. Jess.
Yeah.
Your partner is tasked with smuggling an ill-tempered goose through airport security without getting caught. How do you think they'd attempt this absurd mission, and would they succeed?
Okay, Sam would definitely succeed. And I know this because he's stolen farm animals before, and we can just leave it at that. I have no idea how he would do it, but he would totally figure it out. And I think he would stuff it in something because he has a lot of Cotopaxi bags.
Yeah, probably a ski bag of some kind.
Yeah,
he would smuggle it in ski gear.
He could definitely do it.
Dave, you wake up one day and discover that you and Britt have swapped bodies Friday style, what's the first thing you do while inhabiting their body for the day? And it's got to be rated to whatever this podcast is rated.
Yes.
I was going to say the obvious answer is, X-rated, but
move on.
I don't know. That's a really good question. What would I do? I think it would just be interesting to be out there in the world and see what the different reactions are of people. It's probably completely different inhabiting a female body. So,
I think you'd go for a trail run. That's what I picture.
Why?
Okay.
I'd wake up in the morning. I'd go for a trail run. Whatever. Yeah.
While you're emailing, while you're recording a podcast. Okay. Yeah. And feeding a baby. You'd probably
immediately go to that EDM club in Brooklyn that's underground, the basement.
To get a vibe check.
And get a vibe
check.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well done, guys.
Okay. Julia, did Claude create those questions? Claude?
Yeah, me and Claude created those questions together.
Your friend Claude.
Okay. Well, it's been another great episode, guys. A huge thank you to our listeners, to Mrs. Julia Hartz. I will say we can call this pod Hearts and Minds if you like.
Ooh.
I thought that would be good.
Good.
So
good.
You get the honorary change in title. Thanks for all the insights. We covered a lot, team. And
can it be Hearts? Can it be Hearts and Minds in TikTok? Because I think more people will click on that.
Oh yeah, no. I actually think we have to make PAFACAA somewhere in the head. We got to go back to that, but. Really, this is just a long-winded workshop for something people will click on. With that, thank you for clicking. Please share widely, send us comments, send us ideas.
Julia.
And come to our live event. We just learned we have to do more or less live, where we record a live episode. That's what people want.
We've done that. So we actually have done live episodes, and we have had cocktail parties, and we should do more.
Right.
So
puppies and yoga.
Let's do it live at the Creator Summit.
Yeah. Okay. Have a great week, guys. See you next time. Bye.
If you enjoyed this show, please leave us a virtual high five by rating it and reviewing it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Find more information about each episode in the show notes and follow us on social media by searching for @MoreOrLess, @DaveMorin, @Lesson, @JLesson, and as for me, I'm @Brit. See you guys next time.